Okay, bringing you guys in on this one. It's a 2004 Chevy Silverado 2500. It's got a 6-liter. It's an HD. Like that matters. But anyhow, I was called in for this one, and let me just say this first. And I don't care if anybody argues it or not, but I want to say thank you to the fireman. This is actually a fireman's truck. I know he definitely donated some time at 9/11. So, you know, something like this here, he is also a shop owner. He's going to be retiring from the fire department. He has breathing problems ever since 9/11. And, you know, so this is actually going to be a freebie for him. He doesn't know that yet, but he probably will when he watches this video, because I know he does watch. But he asked me to take a look at his truck while he's out there working for his last couple tours. We're in a severe heat advisory over here, so there's lots of calls coming in. So let me start this thing up. Let's look at read DTCs, PCM, hit continue. And I'll show you guys what he's up against, and I'll bring you through what I took to diagnose it, and all together in less than 20 minutes. And it'll probably take me longer to make the video. So pull up our DTCs, and come on now. Now when Bosch pulls the DTCs, it actually pulls it from multiple areas. It also even goes in there and looks at it generic as well. Looks at it for the fail since clear, the mil codes, whatever is actually turning on the light right now. And we got a p0300B, which B really means nothing on this. It just means that there is a random misfire. p0300 is a random misfire. So if we go out of there, let's look at some data. And this is the process you guys should be going through pretty much every time. Go under 8600, it's an automatic trans. And let's first look at our misfires and see if we can identify what cylinders are misfiring. And there is a miss right now. Doesn't seem to work with a horn trick. But anyhow, let's pull up some misfire, history, and current. Make sure I get them all. Okay. So our histories look like they'll all be up towards the top. If we look here, cylinder 6 has got a huge history, 34,000 misfires. Cylinder 5 showing 2,000. Let's look at it for current. Current down here, we can see cylinder 6 is identifying already. So, what's the next thing you want to do? Well, what kind of a misfire is it? I shouldn't even have shut it off. I'll actually start it back up. What type of a misfire is it? And can we get any indicators at all as to what type of misfire we're dealing with? Well, we can go into data stream here and we can pull up fuel trim data. Let's customize it. And what we'll want to do is I'll look at our short term and long term from bank to bank. He was concerned because there was a little bit of a sound out there like a lifter tap. But I'll show you guys how we ignore those things. We listen to them, but we ignore them. Let's get rid of that. Let's go long term, and short term, and hit continue. Make this part of your misfire diagnosis. If you look at fuel trim on bank 2 already, we're adding 15% fuel. That's a lot of fuel, right? So that should be an indicator already that we're probably going to be heading in the direction of an injector. But what if it was something like an intake valve, you know, that was partially stuck open, something along those lines? Well, that's very, very quick and easy to do, and we'll turn it off. We're going to put our foot to the floor, and yes, there goes those legs again. Turn the key on, and we're going to crank and listen. Now, I don't know how well that picks up on there, but it's a nice steady cadence. So I'm going to do what I've already done, which is quick relative compression. We're just going to put an amp clamp, and we'll bring you guys around so you can see. We're going to take an amp clamp, and we're going to go right around this cable right here, which is actually going to go down towards the starter, and we're going to set that up on there so we can see what our relative compression looks like. And what we want to see is something that looks just like this. Now ignore the blues for a moment, and we'll explain those in a second, but I want to see basically a steady amperage going all the way across. If one of these was dropped down, I mean, there's many videos out there on doing this test, but and you can do this also even just using voltage, even if you don't have an amp clamp but you do have a scope. I would suggest using an amp clamp though. There is a little bit more detail to it, but in this case, here we are looking at it, and we could see that that looks relatively even all the way across the board. So am I looking for something that's mechanical right now? No. I am on those blues. Let me take the red off the screen for a second. And, oh, come on, hit off. And actually that didn't take it off the screen, so let me get these reds and move them off the screen so we don't have to look at them. And what I have here is my bank 2. Or I'm sorry, actually this is bank 1 right now, and I'm actually watching my ignition coil firing events. Oh no, actually it should be on bank 2, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Let me go back to that a second. And I've erased what was on the screen, so let me just do it again. Let's start it back up. Took the key out of the ignition though, so you guys didn't have to hear the chime and yell at me. So what do we actually have here? Let me pause it for a second and not let the tablet fall. And I'm going to zoom it in. Come on, pinch, zoom, pinch, zoom. And all I looked at here quickly was whether or not we have any repetition to this pattern. We have a single, double, single, single, double. And it goes single, single, I'm sorry, so it's single, single, double, single, single, double as it continues on. I went in there for a little bit more detail and I watched each one of these coils. Let me zoom that back out again and bring that over so we can see one. And just took a quick glance at it, and every one of the coils looks exactly the same, about the same amperage. Good turn on, good turn off. Wasn't too worried about that. So then I started looking at the injector, which when they're spread out like that, they're a little bit harder to see, but let me just bring that in, and then I'll bring it up a little bit so we can see. A little bit of a pintle bump there, pintle bump there, pintle bump there. And right there is where I'm talking about. So I see pintle movement, I see all that stuff. Right away, I'm gonna go, and the next thing I want to do is an injector balance test. So let's get this thing to communicate again. And I have a fuel gauge hooked up already. And let's see, where can I put that you guys will be able to see it too? All right, I think right about there. So I'm not gonna show you guys the screen because I want to try to keep you focused up there. Well, I guess I can get you there first. Let's go back out, go into special tests. We want PCM special tests. Under 86 again, yes, it's automatic. And we want fuel test, or fuel system. And then we're gonna go down to fuel injector balance. Make sure that if you're doing this, by the way, now, Harbor Freight is good for some things. I'm going to tell you now that their fuel pressure gauges are not 100% accurate, and I am getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So each injector can only be tested once, which is absolutely true. We're already set up right here. When you see INJ1 down here, this is already set up there to start testing injector 1. I'm going to get you focused in up here, and I'm going to hit the test button, and that's going to prime the fuel system for us. Hit continue. And we'll begin the pulse test. So we're going from 55 down to about 43, 44, right in that area. And we'll move on to the next injector, injector number 2. Continue again. Do I want to continue? Yes, go right ahead and back down there to about 45 this time. And let me get into that next one. Come on now. Quit it, mosquito. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that as our base, guys. And then I'm going to just jump right down to our injector number 6. And so I'm going to hit test. Let it prime up the system. And we're going to hit continue. So from 55, we're going to go down to, see it? About 46. So our injector is not dropping enough fuel. What you want to see there is absolutely no more than a 2 psi difference from injector to injector. If you notice that first one that we did there, it was coming down to about 43, 44. That is, in my experience, what a good number is. And I don't care what scan tool you're using to do the pulse test with. The remainder of them there are starting their restriction. And that's exactly what happens with these. You don't see it in the pintle bump because the pintle is opening, but you're getting a restriction in the injector, excuse me. So in this case here, this is basically the quick rundown of what I do when I have a p0300 on one of these GM products there, where it's nice and easy. You can come in here and do a fuel injector balance test. One day, you know, we'll come across one there that's going to have a fuel rail pressure sensor, and when we do this, each one here is going to give us an actual pressure drop coming across, hopefully. So, but I just wanted to show you guys what I had to do in this one here. This one's going to probably end up, knowing this guy, he's probably going to do a set of 8 injectors on here. You know, but if this was your car and you were out here working on it, or you're working on it for a customer, you know, do the injector drop test, record everything, you know, get a base feel. You know, the ones that drop more are generally going to be the ones that are okay. So you can use that as your baseline. But as of right now, this is pretty much just a quick and easy diagnosis, and that's it. Needs an injector, or in this case, like I said, I'm sure he'll do a set of injectors. So if you like this, hit that like button. Much appreciated. And again, you know, make sure you thank a fireman in your area, or even a policeman, for their service as well. You know, we have our armed forces out there. You know, hopefully everybody, you know, every time they hear something like that, they say thank you for your service. But, you know, don't forget about our local boys either, and girls. Don't get me wrong. But that's it for right now. And yes, there is a monster truck, and yes, I worked on that yesterday. But anyhow, that's a different story. All right, have a good one.